views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
She was a 13-year-old runaway, a high school dropout, and a person who had lost all hope. Stay with us to hear her inspiring story and learn how she went from living a broken to a blessed life. That's coming up on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Hey, hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime, and of course, we thank you for joining us. You can watch Perspectives every week here on BronxNet's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Fios, that, of course, would be Channel 33 or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. We encourage you also to stay connected to us via social media. We got Twitter, we got Instagram, Facebook, and my professional page, Daren C. Jaime, on Facebook, right? That would be the place that you could actually check us out and find out more information and get some inspiration there as well. And want to let you know that we are connected to you through this season. It is the holiday season. As the holiday season is upon us, and as cheerful as it may be for many people, it can also be a trying and a depressing time for other people. Now, if you're one of those people who find it hard during the holidays, or maybe you've just been feeling broken for whatever reason, I'm happy you're joining us for this particular episode. My guest in the studio has a message of hope as well as encouragement. She's a reverend, a minister who's actually preached across the country, abroad, spreading her message, and it's quite powerful, of hope. In addition, she's a data center facility specialist at Google. There she offers leadership for the Black Googles Network, the diversity team, and community affairs. She also serves on the board of directors for the Children's Restoration Network of Georgia. A native New Yorker, she's here now in the Bronx to talk about her new book, Broken But Blessed, and share her stories of overcoming and purposeful living. We welcome Robin Joseph to the show.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you.
It's good to be here.
My sister, I want to tell you.
Yes.
So listen, I want to talk a little bit about your life because
Okay.
you've been the author of this great book, right? But this book is really based on your life experience. So for somebody who doesn't know, tell us a little bit about that life experience.
Okay. So as you first stated, I was a 13-year-old runaway, high school dropout, was living a life basically that I felt had no hope. And then there came a turning point, and that turning point actually came from painful reality, but restorative possibilities that I saw and changing and actually turning in a different direction to live a more successful life.
So when you say a 13-year-old runaway, right? So you run out of the house at 13. What were your expectations?
Because of the hand that was dealt me, I didn't really have an expectation. When you're in that runaway state, you're just looking to find your peace. And even people who are adults, we often find ourselves in that same situations. Maybe not as a 13-year-old child, but you're always running to find that level of peace that kind of gives you that contentment. It was parallel to that. But then there came a reckoning day.
And so, as I take it, life had to be challenging as a young person, right?
Yes, it was.
But then talk to us because, you face challenges as young people. It's a difference facing challenges as a young person and then as an adult. And for you, I think you hit life head on, moving a little bit further, going on in your career, ended up at Google.
Right. Basically, I think why I am so passionate about even being around young people and empowering young people, and I do mentoring through many programs like Year Up and different programs, is because there were people along the path that took the time, that saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. I've been blessed to be an entrepreneur. I've owned a restaurant, a printing company, have working on my 3rd degree now, and all of this was the aftermath of living such a broken life.
And so when you say broken, let's tell our audience just a little bit what brokenness means. So You're moving. I know your story a little bit about you're moving, and you're moving, but you quite don't have nowhere to go.
Right. So, in that broken state, I believe it's a time when self reflection, a lot of my book is not about just my testimony, but it's about pushing that reader to really take the reality of their lives. And so, one of the chapters in there is Can You Handle the Truth? And so many of us will learn to immediately in our worst situations begin to point at people, places, and things that caused us to be there. But the truth of the matter is we have choices as well. And so my endeavor in this book is not only to have people deal with their realities of their past, which is imperative, but also to take responsibility of their actions and then be able to promote themselves to the next level where they can actually see the possibilities that are so much greater than anything that they ever came from.
And when you talk about facing the truth, for a lot of people that's hard. You know, you've got this issue in front of you that sometimes it's hard to confront. For you, how were you able to confront it and then, my friend says face it, erase it, and then replace it, right? How were you able to face it, erase it, and then replace it?
So my story in the book, although it may be my story, I'm sure everybody has a story. For me, it was the birth of my child. The birth of my child was the reality to me that I just didn't want his life to be like my life was. So it became the propeller for me to say, something has got to change. Generational curses can no longer remain. Thought patterns and even in the book I talk about addictions, and not even from the perspective people automatically think about drugs and alcohol and those things when we talk about addiction, but you can be addicted to a mentality. You can be addicted to gossip. You can be addicted to atmospheres that are not conducive for your level of living. One of the things that I think that I found in the midst of my struggle was the ability to look to others to understand life. Sometimes we feel, I was really blessed. I went from being a mortician for 15 years. The first day I went to school, for mortuary school, my daughter started kindergarten. So I took her to her orientation and then I took her with me to mine.
Wow.
But you have to be able to move past the situation and understand that it's never too late. So I served for 15 years as a mortician and then kind of stumbled into this position that I've now been in for 13 years at Google, which is just a story within itself of miraculous turnaround. But I've never been afraid to work. I've never been afraid to go outside the box. Actually, I'm working on my second book, which is called Ice Cream for Breakfast. And it deals with inspiration, it deals with motivation, it deals with aspiration, and then unfolding the revelation. When we were younger, the first thing people would always say to us, what do you want to be when you grow up? And for some reason, that question isn't really one that's posed that much anymore.
Right.
But what happens to the dream that lives inside of us? What happens when we live outside the norm? Can you imagine having ice cream for breakfast every day? It wouldn't be normal, but it wouldn't kill you, especially if it made your life any better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So give me this here, because you talk about your story, ending up at Google, miraculous in itself. Tell us. How'd you end up?
So actually, in reality, I had decided that I wanted to move to Georgia, and in my quest to move to Georgia, I was supposed to start another job. I get there. When I get there, the job was not ready, and so I went to a temp agency to try and just get a job for 30 days until my job at the mortuary was ready, and it happened from there. I got there, I barely knew how to double click. But I went home and I decided that this was a quest that I wanted to take. And so I began to utilize the tools that were necessary to find out how do I really conquer and understand the technical part of life. And so IT became my best friend. I started watching videos and looking at things until I got to a position where, when you come in there, I have a degree in mortuary science and biblical studies. So they did look at me like I was crazy. But when you are persistent and when you are really, really powerfully called to do whatever you're gifted to do, it may not manifest in the way that you think, but there will always be a manifestation.
Coming back, I got more with Robin Joseph right after this. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about that life. And you got a lot of things going on in life, and you got where things are going good and things are not going so good. And you're really trying to turn the corner. So we get some keys on how to turn the corner, make some positive changes. That's coming up after this on Perspectives.
All right.
How you doing? You all right?
make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Love is kind. Love is patient.
And we're back here on Perspectives. Our guest in studio, Robin Joseph, talking about her book, Broken But Blessed. And want to let you know that you can be broken, but you can also still be blessed. And she talks a little bit about this. And I want to talk about your book and go to a particular paragraph. You know, it says on one paragraph, there are some who survived on broken pieces. And broken pieces oftentimes cannot be used for their original purpose. But many times when people are broken, it actually, you can be used for your original purpose.
So in the book, I talk about a vase. So if a vase is broken, you can easily take it and you can glue it back together. But there will still be those pieces inside that will still have those flaws. But it does not take away from the beauty of the vase or even it being used for its original intention. And so I think that for the reader of the book, my intention is that they will be pushed to that place to not allow the things of the past or even the things of the present. Sometimes it's things that are tormenting us right now that we feel hinder us from moving to that next place in life. For me, it was transparency. For me, it was being able to see my life a different way. For me, it was being able to put in the work to actually know that there could be a better way.
And so when you say broken, what was the ultimate place when you said, listen, this is definitely rock bottom for me?
So in addition to being a runaway, I was in domestic violence situations and being out there in a world that many of my friends and those who I encountered are either dead, some are in jail, and some are addicted to drugs. And so being able to reflect back and look around the room and say, this could be you, but you still have a choice. It doesn't matter that this is the road that you have been led to. There's a choice that you have to make a difference in your life. And so for me, like I said, it was my son, it was the birth of my son that made the reality that the curse had to be broken, that I could not continue to perpetuate a lifestyle that had been something that I had seen and become comfortable to me.
And so when the public out there, they see people, they see them in their perfected state, right?
Right.
And there's that season where you're perfected and you're doing good, but you've got that other season of brokenness that we talked about. What advice do you give to somebody to hang on in through that transition from when you get to the place of being broken to blessed?
My advice to them would be to make sure that at that point of brokenness, that they not let it be that point of despair. Many times when we're in those states, we feel like all hope is lost. And, you know, even those are the times when we have to say, even when I'm weak, I'm really, really strong. It becomes that time where sometimes you have to be your greatest encourager. You have to be your greatest cheerleader. But you also have to tap into people who have the resources. When I counsel people a lot, I talk to them about even professional counseling and not being afraid to utilize that as a tool to help you to get to that healthy place. You know, there used to be this this little taboo. Oh, you must be crazy if you go to counseling or if you do these things. When in actuality, there are people, there are tools, there are resources, there are coping mechanisms that can really help you to get past that state that may make you feel like you're at the end of your rope.
And for a lot of us in our own community, it's prevalent.
Yes.
We don't. In communities of color, therapy is rejected. You know, talking to people is rejected. But for you, give us the experience of what that means to have that counselor.
Right. So in my younger years, I was very suicidal. Life had me at a place where constantly it was that I could give up life and I could just throw in the towel. And I'm sure that when we look at the complexity of today and we see the mass amount and all different facets of life, not just with the rich, not just with the poor, not just with any culture or color, it's all across the board. I think it's primarily because people have learned to suppress those feelings that make them feel like, you know, that they don't want to live anymore. And I think that that is one of the things that I try very hard to, in my transparency, the reason for my transparency is to let people know that when you are in those places, when you are in that state, that if you need that help, seek that help, get that help so that you can get better.
Yeah, getting better is important. And I want to give you notes, you know, Robin Joseph here, she's talking about her book, Broken But Blessed. Expose yourself to yourself and you'll be surprised at what you discover. She's also got another book on the way. And so how do you manage all this? I mean, you got ministry going, you got Google going, you got books going, you got all kind of stuff. You need to give a class just on time management all by itself right there. How are you managing all this?
It is challenging, but it does take actually scheduling. You know, for Google, I've been able to go all across the world. I just recently was in Switzerland where I got to do a talk on my book, Ice Cream for Breakfast. With ministry, I've gotten to preach not only in the States, but abroad. I've preached in Singapore and many other places. And with my ministry, I've also extended it, like I said, to other facets where I'm volunteering and doing a lot of community service, and my focus really is on young people. But how I manage that is I make sure that I keep a work-life balance, a ministry-life balance, and even a book-life balance. And I think that's what causes a healthy life. When you take those timeouts and you say you're intentional about having time, not only just to inspire others, but to inspire yourself.
Yeah. For somebody who wants to be an author, what do you tell them?
I really did not honestly intend to make that a book. The creation of this book really came from journaling. I was at a very dark place in my life and I started journaling just to identify where the spot was and where it turned. And my book was that journal. And I just started sharing it with people and they were like, wow, this is good. You should make this a book. And, you know, when people would come to me for counseling and things of that nature. And so mine actually happened a little bit by accident. But it has been a blessing and we're on our third print. And so we're really excited about the opportunities that have been afforded us.
And the second book is around the corner.
The second book will be out in March 2019. That is more geared toward the corporate world, so it's a little different. It still has a motivational capacity, but just at a different level. And that's based upon some of the things that I have acquired through my time at Google and working in leadership positions and things of that nature.
All right, well, let's stay with us. Got more Robin Joseph. Taking a quick break. We got more show. Don't go away. We're coming right back right after this.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
And we're back here to continue our conversation with Robin Joseph. She's the author of the book Broken But Blessed. And she's been sharing a little with us about her story, her experience, and literally brokenness. People have a hard time admitting sometimes that they're broken.
Right.
And particularly when you're involved in abuse. I had a conversation with somebody on the way in, and it was just hard for the person to actually even admit that they were in the place that they're in. Give me some thoughts as to what are some of the great helps that people can apply to really identifying where they are and then getting out of that spot. Because I think once you get out of that spot, that's the life-changing moment, right? But some people just don't do that.
I don't think there's an actual barometer of time. I think it's all about when that person is ready. As I say, I stumbled upon writing this book, but it was 10 years before I actually put it to print. So for 10 years, I held on to it because I was not ready to release the reality of it. From molestation to domestic violence, all of those things were just things that I had harbored in my mind to hold on to. And as long as I held on to it, there's a part in the book where I talk about the reality of not dealing with a situation where I used to think I was like Bewitched. You remember Bewitched back in the day? She could wiggle her nose and make anything go away. But at the end of the day, after the wiggle, the issues are still there. And so I would encourage people to walk through their time period based on their own emotional strengths. You know, some people we can do it in a day, some people can do it in a month, but as long as you're moving in the process, you're always going somewhere.
What are the common things you hear from people when they discuss your book?
When they discuss my book, the most common thing that I hear is people saying, that was me. I got raped. That was me. I was in domestic violence. That was me. I was a single parent. That was me. And so as much as it was challenging to be this transparent, I recognized that it was necessary for people to be able to actually see someone who not only went from a state of brokenness, but is now at a place where, not for anything that I've done, but I really do, you know, point it all to the cross, that is why I am blessed.
You walk a line because you have corporate on you, right? That's of who you are, and there's no denying you have ministry and you're a minister. How does that balance work for you in terms of your environment? Because sometimes they both intersect and sometimes they don't. And how do you manage?
I think when you get to the marketplace, you become the marketplace influencer. And my time at Google has been just that. I have been able to be a part of what they call the Church Connect. And through that, I was able to go to 3 of the larger denominations and be able to actually interact Google with the church. And so for me, those are the moments when I feel like, I know why I'm here. Those are those aha moments when it's bigger than just a payroll check, but you understand. And so there have been many capacities, whether it's my opportunity, I do a lot of CS first and coding. And so being able to go into group homes and introduce children who would have never had that opportunity to know that, there is another way that you can actually make a living and make a successful living. So that's how I connected. I connect that those portions when I'm able to give back, whether it's going into the community, whether it's, through any of our employee resource groups. Those to me are ministry, but just in a different capacity.
Yeah. And for Google, I mean, obviously, everybody's dream job in some ways, you're at a dream job, right?
Yes.
And people, when you say Google, people Google over the fact of Google, right? But for people who want a path, go on that path, that career path of being there, what advice do you give them? Because your road there was like, I think when you start out as a temp.
Yes, I did. For me, it was hard work, honestly. It was hard work and perseverance. I tell this story, and it's actually kind of hysterical. At one time, they had given all of the employees at Google a bonus. And so when they came out the room, I was a temp at that time, and they brought everybody out, and they were high-fiving each other. And I said to them, what are you high-fiving each other? And they said, we can't tell you because you're not a Googler. And at that moment, I thought, there is no way I'm going to sit at the king's table and not eat the king's food. code. And so I went on this pursuit to do everything that I needed to do to learn the job that they had me in as a temp so that they could solidify. And ultimately, they ended up creating a position. And so I was able to walk therein. But I would say a lot of people, when they think of Google, they only think of a technical position where there are admins at Google, there are salespeople at Google, there are facility specialists like myself, there are electricians, there are HVAC people. So really one of my charges has been to really educate people to know that Google is more than, you don't just have to be the geek or the techie person. There's so many other aspects that you can pipe into and to really identify if that is something that you want to do, to know the career path that is necessary. Google has been really intentional about reaching out and letting people know that we want people that come from all walks of life.
Well, thank you for coming, sharing a little bit about your experience and definitely what it's like to be moving from broken to blessed. I've known her for quite a bit. Her story is remarkable, but thank you for coming and sharing with us here on television.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Robin Joseph, our guest here in studio. That about wraps it up for this edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime. Of course, we want you to stay connected to Perspectives. And as we said, we tell you every week, BronxNet's Channel 67, Verizon Files Channel 33, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. For all of us here on the set of Perspectives, we say take care, God bless, and until the next time we meet, stay safe, share your perspective with somebody else. You never know, it just might make a difference in somebody else's life.
This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Let them know.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul.